Hello, Rabat, Morocco, and greetings from UNICEF in New York. With deep appreciation to His Majesty, the King Mohammed VI of Morocco, and Her Royal Highness Princess Lala Mariam, the National Observatory for Child Rights, and the Model United Nations Morocco team. My name is Olav Kjorven, and I'm so excited to talk to you today. I understand that there are hundreds of young people in the room, including 300 young women from 140 countries gathered at this important Model UN event in Morocco. And you are gathered because there is a new global agenda. A new global agenda for sustainable development that is about to be agreed at the United Nations in New York, and you have decided that you want to contribute to shaping how this important agenda with these 17 goals gets implemented over the next 15 years. And I want to tell you that you are the essence of this new agenda, these wonderful new 17 commitments. And there are three reasons for that I want to share with you. First of all, girls and young women are at the heart of the challenges we are facing. And I'm going to give you just a few facts to illustrate that. Out of the world's 130 million out-of-school youth, 70% are girls. 1/6 of the world's young people live on less than $2 a day, including 122 million girls in sub-Saharan Africa who live on less than $1 a day. 82 million girls in the developing world who are now between the ages of 10 and 17 will be married before their 18th birthday. 1/4 to 1/2 of all girls in developing countries become mothers before they're 18. And girls under 15 are 5 times more likely to die in childbirth than mothers above the age of 20. 75% of all HIV infections in sub-Saharan Africa among people ages 15 to 24 are young women. So those are some fairly powerful facts that should tell all of us that the challenges that we are faced with today have very much to do with the lives that girls and young women live. A second reason is that making the world a better place for girls and young women will propel us forward in every way. And just take the area of education. When a girl in the developing world receives 7 or more years of education, she marries 4 years later and has 2 fewer children. Child marriage were halved among 13 to 15-year-olds in Bangladesh who were enrolled in school for 3 years. And in selected countries, we found the mortality rate of children under 5 is highest among those whose mothers had no education. It is lower if the mother has had some primary schooling, and lower still if she has benefited from secondary education. And there's a third reason, and that is that your participation is absolutely key to achieving the success of these goals, these new exciting agenda. You have participated in the road that we have traveled so far. When we set off to start this whole process of coming up with a new agenda for the future, we decided to organize a global conversation to involve people all over the world in the discussion on what sort of world we want to live in. And young people, including young girls and women, have participated like never before in this whole process. We had the My World survey with 8 million people voting for the world they want to live in. And among those 8 million, 77% of the voters were young people. And it's interesting that over 5 million people around the world decided in that survey that education is their top priority. And we had consultations with people from all over the world as well, in communities, in cities, around the world. And what did we hear from young people around the world? For instance, kids living in the major cities of the world. We heard that they want to live in more livable cities, where they can go out and enjoy life and connect with their peers and their friends. They find it difficult. They want more livable cities. And that is now one of these 17 goals. We heard from young people all over the world that they want access to vocational training in order to get jobs, and they want access to jobs. And we heard that, not least from young girls and young women, they want protection from abuse and violence. But now, going forward, it's not enough to have listened to you and captured what you have had to share with decision makers in governments and at the United Nations. You have to take part in making this happen. I'm going to put this in very plain language. This agenda will not succeed. It will not happen unless you take part and you become active participants in delivering on these goals. And then that means it's up to your governments and it's up to us at the UN to create that space, to make it possible for you to participate in making this agenda real. You need to be empowered by those who hold power. And this we need to deliver on by giving you a voice in the discussions that will take place over the coming couple of years in how do we actually turn these commitments and these goals into action on the ground. We need to continue to hear from you. So that's why this conference in Morocco is so important, because I believe this, among other things, is what you will be discussing. And we need to hear your ideas. What are your proposed solutions? And then we need to give you space to actually help make those solutions become real, so that your ideas can be implemented by you as well as by the communities in which you live, and working with business and working with local government and officials and whatever the case may be. And we need you, because if there's not a young and energetic voice in following what actually happens when these goals are supposed to be implemented, since governments have now made these commitments, if they're not held to account, we can be sure that the goals will not be achieved. And that means that we need you to be able to tell us and tell your governments that progress is being made or not. And we at UNICEF, we are very happy that we can offer a platform to make this possible. We have something called U-Report, which is already providing millions of young people around the world in many different countries the tools to be able to report on progress or whether there's a lack of progress. So for instance, are schools being supplied with the necessary textbooks and with teachers? And are teachers showing up for work? Or are appropriate toilets and bathrooms being built for both boys and for girls in the schools or not? Is progress being made in addressing the environmental problems in your community or not? And we need you to report on what happens. And that also means that local authorities, national governments, those with power must create that space that give you that role, because you have a right to participate and you have a right to help determine the progress that we can make against these goals. We started this whole thing with a global conversation, and you contributed, you were heard, and just look at these wonderful 17 goals and you will see that many of your priorities are in fact captured. Now we must let that conversation continue in Morocco, where you are now, as well as beyond. And we have to make it all about not just talking for talk's sake, but we have to make it about action, 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 because that's the only thing that will deliver the results we need. You are the ones who will deliver a better world for all of us. If we give you the chance, if we give you the opening and the role that you deserve. I want to thank you for your attention. I want to thank you for your presence and for your commitment. And I want to say one thing more. We in UNICEF and we at the United Nations, we exist to serve you. If we don't serve you, we shouldn't exist, because that is what United Nations is about. It's about we the people, and it's about servicing those who can shape the world for the future and who can, through their voice and through their participation and through their ideas, help us reach the goals that have now been negotiated and that will be agreed here in New York in September. So thank you again and good luck with your deliberations.